So our work with MHGAP started in 2015 when we undertook an initiative to provide mental health and psychosocial support to the IDPs in Bannu. So the next intervention that we did was it was a small project we did with ComSats, and we supported 7 basic health units spread across Pakistan in all provinces. Then the next experience was in Parachanar. By that time, we had realized that it's not going to work if we stick to the English versions. And not just we need handouts in Urdu, but we also need clinical questions, clearly defining each area. It was towards the end of 2018 when International Medical Corps approached me for doing MHGAP in 3 districts in KP for Afghan refugees. So we used that opportunity and we did further work. So by this time, we had realized that the 3 major challenges were one, that our pre-service training was extremely weak. I clearly remember in Parachanar, I think it was, that we had a large group of about 28 physicians, and there were 2 young doctors who seemed to know so much about mental disorders. And when I asked them that, what is their interest and how do they know so much, we found out that their medical training was done, undergraduate medical training was done in Cuba. So this was such a sharp contrast between those who were trained in Cuba and those who had trained in Pakistan. So one, our pre-service training is extremely weak. And Dr. Khalid Saeed has already emphasized a lot about it. The pre-service training of not just medical students and graduating doctors is weak, but the pre-service training of clinical psychologists is also very weak. There are only very few courses across the country, clinical psychology courses I'm discussing now, the master's level, which would have a focused component of recognizing and managing common mental disorders. There are some courses, some universities who have incorporated introductions now, and it already is making a lot of difference when you speak to them who have been introduced formally to the idea of symptoms and how common mental disorders need to be ruled out. So this was our first challenge, that the pre-service training was very weak, and we felt that the guide was assuming that the doctors have been trained properly, and now in this in-service training, we can just refresh their knowledge. The second challenge, like Dr. Khalid Saeed has mentioned, was that the prevailing pattern of medical practice, both at the primary care and with the specialist, was biomedical. So what they were doing and what they wanted to continue to do was tell us the name of a drug that we have to prescribe. This is all that they were interested in. And we also found that they were afraid of the term psychosocial interventions, because I think they had assumed that this was something so difficult that they'll never be able to do it. The third challenge that we discovered was that the quality of, or the skills of trainers that are available around us, it varies greatly. Therefore, the same material you can give to one trainer and he or she might deliver effectively, and you give it to another trainer who might struggle imparting the same knowledge and skills. And therefore, we felt that the training resource needed to be developed in a way that it should help standardize the training process. We were learning important lessons through this process. I already said that we understood that any training has to be done in Urdu, and then further interviews need to be conducted in regional languages. We also started experiencing some gaps in HIG guide. For example, in our clinical practice, we were very aware and we were worried about the widespread use of benzodiazepines and the dependence associated with that. And we felt that the guide was not laying enough emphasis either on the problem or the solution. We also felt that dissociation was not well defined, and we knew that there were so many cases presenting to primary care physicians every day in their practice, and they had no idea what to do with people who were presenting with dissociative symptoms. In the same way, we realized that somatization is a very common presentation in our primary care, and the guide, the chapter on others, although touching upon somatization, but was not describing a step-to-step management process for the primary care physicians. We also realized that we needed to put in clinical questions. The doctors, we can't assume that we will tell them in a 5-day training of how this has to be asked, and then they will go home and start practicing it. So the guide, even if the guide is in front of them, it was telling them how to do it, but what to do, but not telling them how to do that. We also knew that we had to focus on building their skills to deliver psychosocial interventions. We have to encourage them, engage them, and educate them about this idea that they can also deliver counseling skills. One of the challenges that was coming across was that how do we develop questions which are easy for the primary care physicians to ask in a culturally sensitive way. And the example that is coming to my mind is that of suicide. So although we had these 3 or 4 questions written in suicide for the assessment of suicide, but when we translated them in Urdu, and when we asked the primary care physicians to ask these questions in role plays, we immediately saw the reluctance. And we also saw the awkwardness of asking that question, that you are speaking to somebody for maybe 5 minutes and you ask them that, how do you ever feel that life is not worth living? Or do you ever want to end your life? Have you had any, have you made any plans about ending your life? So these questions, when we translated them in Urdu, they became very awkward. So we knew that the process had to be more smooth for us to demonstrate that you can ask these questions. In the first experience of Banu, I remember that it was a long drive, and the travel time we were using to write down questions from our clinical experience and adding to our teaching materials. But soon we realized that this is not how it should be done. And I was fortunately part of the working group that was revising MHCAP second version. So what Dr. Khalid Saeed was mentioning earlier on, that there was so much of emphasis on how guidelines are driven from evidence. And even if I thought that this was a good way of asking a clinical question, another experienced psychiatrist might disagree with me. So how are we going to justify? Each province is going to have their own debates. So that's why we started thinking that whatever adaptation we do, we need to make sure that it's driven by evidence and we can justify why we are asking this question in this way. And of course, we realized that by that time that we have to work on enhancing clinical utility, because primary care physicians do not have the time or the resource or the skill to go into the details of how we as psychiatrists do our trainings and go into descriptive details and whatnot. It has to be very crisp, very sharp, just the way MHCAP guide is designed. Around the same time, end of 2019, Dr. Khalid Saeed invited me to work on a document for Emro region, which was developing a job aid for supplementing the MHCAP guide, doing exactly what we were so desperately looking for. So that experience was extremely useful. Israr did a lot of work over 2 weeks, and he did an extensive literature search and came up with these structured clinical interviews that were already present. So we used, for example, questions out of present state examination or SCAN. And also at that point, Dr. Khalid Saeed emphasized that we need to not just say that take a history or do a mental state examination or do a physical examination, but we need to go into the details of what questions to ask for history. And there the challenge was that we don't want to be as detailed as we were in our undergraduate training programs about history taking and mental state examination. But at the same time, we had to come up with very brief questions and assessment areas for each module. And for psychosocial interventions, we felt that it was not enough to tell them that you have to find out, explore their sources of stress, or you have to, find out what their social support is or strengthen it. We need to exactly tell them how to do that. And the same with problem management. Just saying that, there is one intervention that you can do problem management was not enough. So we made like a summary out of the PM Plus document and inserted it to our MHCAP guide. And most of what I'm describing now is part of the tool, which is MyCare Plus, which we are converting into an application for our tier 2 use. And I hope that all of you will train to use that app also. So by the time we did this, now let me just tell you a summary of how this process of adaptation has gone so far. So over the past 5 years or so, there has been an ongoing situation analysis where each experience was helping us understand the needs of the primary care physicians or primary care staff better. We were becoming more and more aware of the ground reality of our healthcare system and understanding the limitations that we were facing. During this time, we held many focus group discussions with primary care physicians, with health managers. We had our own field observations from the trainings that we converted, and there was so much of emphasis always on the feedback from the workshops that we conducted. And then we were knowing more, our knowledge of what common presentations really are in our context, how clinical language should be best used, how do we provide these interventions in the cultural context, and what kind of medication or other resources are available at the primary care level. We also conducted many focus group discussions with specialists, both who were working within the team and outside. Then we prepared an adapted draft. Actually, we prepared 2 drafts. So there was a revision of that adapted draft, and then we translated it. That translation process was very challenging. Sometimes we would translate a question directly from English, and then when we would incorporate it in a clinical interview in Urdu, we felt that this word-to-word translation was not helping. So then many times we would formulate the question in Urdu and then go back to see if we can reduce the gap between the question in English and Urdu. Sometimes we could, sometimes we couldn't. But every time we were making a change in the English question, which was derived from a scale, we would make a note of that, of why we are doing it. Sometimes we had to go to add more questions, like the example of suicide. And then we pilot tested it. We were very fortunate because every time we were learning about the MHCAP adaptation, we got an opportunity to implement it and pilot it and learn from the experience. In summary, very briefly, because you have been studying these modules, so and you have the actual guide also. So very briefly, I'll explain to you that, give you some example of how this was adapted. So the module on acute stress, for example, we have added a table on benzodiazepines, which highlights both the cautions and the addictive potential and how doses should be used or reduced. So also in the same module, we have strengthened the management of dissociation. So we've added more information there, step by step. And then we have also inserted a table which differentiates between dissociative and true seizures. And all this happened because of the experience that in our primary care context, these presentations were very common and therefore they needed to be strengthened. And in the same way, in the chapter on others, we have included the reattribution technique also for addressing somatization. In the chapter on moderate to severe depression, we have inserted prescribing guidelines in special population as a table. We added that and we got that from MHCAP IG. So sometimes what we were doing was that if There was some evidence present in IG, and we felt that we needed it in HIG. We just incorporated it from there. In the same way, psychosis, saying that you have to exclude delirium was not enough. And when we were conducting these trainings on psychosis, that's when we started realizing that we have to actually explain to them what to look for if they have to exclude delirium. In the module on intellectual disability, in the parenting skills, we added the principles of behavioral modification in detail to explain. And I hope that some of this will be able to role play during the next 2 days. In the module on substance use disorders, we have incorporated the technique of motivational interview. And also we added further details to the management of opioid withdrawal and benzodiazepine dependence. In the chapter on suicide, I've already explained that, the clinical interview questions were very important. But in addition, if a patient is not conscious, what do you look for? How do you interview this patient? How do you interview a patient and the family when they present with self-harm? And because organophosphate poisoning is so common, so we decided that we wanted to add the examination of organophosphate poisoning as well. So this is all about the process of adaptation and how this guide was developed.